Hey everybody, it's Ian at Las Vegas Scooters and Lifts again, and today on my lift I've got a Victory 10 with a charging issue. So how to test for charging issues. Let's give it a go. Well, welcome to our channel. This is Las Vegas Scooters and Lifts. My name's Ian and I'm a scooter tech here at my business, Las Vegas Scooters and Lifts. If you like this content, like, share, subscribe, give us a thumbs up and all that good stuff. And you can also go to our website for some services we provide. We sell products on there and parts, a few parts. If you can't see the part on there that you want, give us a call or drop an email and we will try and source that part for you for the actual manufacturers that we supply for. So we don't supply everything, but we can maybe help you source something. But yeah, Las Vegas Scooters and Lifts /store, and there you'll get into all the products and services we provide. And if you do buy from us, thank you very much. We appreciate that very much. It does help us out. I try and give out as much help and advice as I can, just to help you look for any problems, just so you know a little bit more about these scooters. So it's there as advice just to help you out. I can't help you out with your own projects or anything like that. I can't modify anything for you or tell you how to modify things. That's not the sort of things I do. I just replace part for part to help you get back on your scooter or power wheelchair. So let's get into this video. It's about diagnosing a charging issue on a Victory 9 or a Victory 10. Let's get into it. All right, so I have a Victory 10 from our rentals, as you can see, and I've got a charging issue. So I'm going to go through what you should do if you replace your batteries and you're having a charging issue, and what sort of things you can look for if you know for definite your batteries are okay. These were changed about just under a year ago, so I know I have a charging issue. I've tried several chargers. So there's the first port. If you look at your charger, so we have a charger here. Make sure when you plug it in, your power light comes on, and if the charger light doesn't come on, then it's charger or scooter that's the problem. So you have to determine whether it's your charger or your scooter. Now if you haven't got a spare charger, then you would have to take it to a store and then get them to check your charger or to put another charger on it. See if you have a friend who has a scooter or something like that, just to rule out the charger. So once you've plugged the charger in, plug it into the charge port, which is located on Victory 10s, Victory 9s, on the top tiller here on the front, and it should change from, if it's green, it'll go red when it's charging, or if it's off, it'll go red when it's charging. So that's the indicator light on the charger. Now if either of these two lights don't come on, then check your cable on the charger to make sure it's plugged in correctly. There we go, in the second wall socket inlet port there. Make sure the lights come on. If they flash like a steady flashing like that or don't come on, then it could be a charger issue. But we know this is not a charger issue. I'm gonna plug it in just to show you what's going on. Just put it up there for a second while I plug it in. Okay, so you can see what I'm talking about. These chargers are the older-fashioned sort of chargers that they gave out with the Victories. The lights are pretty difficult to see, but you can see it's got a red light, and if you look inside, you can see barely there's a green light that's illuminated down there, meaning that it's not charging. So it's either fully charged or not charging. If either of these lights flash, then it's a charger issue. Now this, I know we've tested it, but I'll test it again for you. So we know the charger seems okay. I've tested this charger on another scooter and it does kick into charge, so we know it's not a charger. Alright, so the next thing you need to do is test the voltage of the batteries, which I've already done. The scooter's been sat for a while and it was scheduled to go out for a rental. So what you will need is either remove the seat but remove the battery cover. Now this pertains to most scooters, including something like a Ultra X or your Go-Go's, anything like that. You'd have to take the battery pack apart and test everything in there, which I'll go through. But I'm sticking with the Victory 10 because this is the one with the issue. Make sure these are plugged in. These are your battery plug-ins. Make sure they're not damaged. There's no wires cut or anything like that. Just make sure these are seated correctly, so we know we've got good connection there. You will need a voltmeter, something like this. So you can get them relatively cheap. Some people have got them, but you can pick them up cheap enough for like 10 bucks, something like that. This is a little bit more expensive, but it doesn't really matter. Put it on DC volts, and then you can put the black on the black terminal. Let me get my stand so I can work without holding the phone. Alright, so what I'm going to do is raise you up a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put the black pointer, that thing, and then the red pointer on the corresponding terminals of the battery. I'm going to test each battery individually just to make sure I've got voltage at the battery. And so red on red, black on black, and then the reading on the meter there should be 12 volts or more. This is 11.7 because it's been sat for a while. So I know I've got voltage at the battery, and then we do the same on the other battery on the other side. So black on black, red on red, just 11.7. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. There we go. We've got 11.7. So we know we've got voltage at the batteries. So with these batteries, or these scooters, they also have inline fuses on them. On all of the batteries, including the Go-Go's, they have them as well. So inside of the battery box they'll have an inline fuse, and that's this lump here. Always on the positive side, one there, one there. So the next thing you want to test is making sure that that fuse hasn't blown. So unplug the corresponding battery that you're testing. White is typically on these, white is positive, and that's your ground or negative. So switch your voltage meter to audible beep or ohm reading, so it beeps, and this is testing continuity between that point where it attaches to the battery to this point to where it attaches to the scooter, and that's basically testing this fuse which is covered up in the line there. So I just want to make sure there isn't any broken power or broken cables or broken fuse, and it should beep if it's correct. So we're getting a beep, so we know we've got continuity from there to there, so we know that's fine. You can also test the black one, your negative, make sure that does the same. So I'm going to remove that battery and grab the other one, unplug it, and do the same on this side. So you have your fuse there, put one end on the battery, one on the terminal end, and we got a beep there, so we're good to go. We know it's not the fuse. I'm just checking the black side, negative. We know we've got a beep there, so we know it's not batteries, we know it's not fuses, and we know it's not cables to this, what I call the tower, the connecting tower, which then connects down into the brain of the scooter, which is under the floor just there, which is underneath in a little tray under there. So the next thing I want to test is going to be a simple thing. So we know we've got power at the battery. So the next thing I'm testing is on the Victory 9s, Victory 10s, they have this little flap, which is your fuse. It's got a little picture of a fuse on it just there. So now I'm going to test the fuses. On the inside of the flap, it shows you exactly what fuse does what. So charger key switch, lower headlight, tail lights, which doesn't pertain to this scooter, left and right turn signals, which again doesn't pertain, that's for the Sport. You can also do the same thing with the Sport, the Victory 10 Sport. So now I'm testing the fuse. You can pull the fuse out, look at it visually, but sometimes they can blow or have a bad connection and still give you a problem at the charge port. But while it's in there, I'll test it anyway. Again, I'm on audible, and then on each side of the fuse, there's like a little top of the fuse metal bit showing, and that should beep, so that says the fuse is fine. But again, you pull the fuse out, do a visual inspection, make sure there's nothing broken. If you can see that, you can see the little loop in the middle, and that's your fuse. If that's blown, then that could be an issue. Another way to test it once you've taken it out, I've seen things online where you put it on a cell phone, but I've tried it on my iPhone, it doesn't work. But again, put the prong on either side just to make sure we've got continuity going through the fuse, so we know the fuse is good. So the next thing, while we're up in this top console, we want to check the wiring going to here. Now this wiring goes through to the controller, which then passes it through the main harness, front to rear harness, through to that charge port. So now we're getting into not serious, but it could be a lot more work for you to having to find out what the problem is. So again, we want to test the white into so we're getting nothing at the charge port, either or. So you should have continuity between there and there, because your batteries, that's how you would read if your batteries were plugged in. If your batteries are plugged into the tower, then you should get a reading up here of 24 to 26 volts from the battery. So that's how you would normally test if you have power at the charge port. So you would just put the prong in either of the two holes, one left and right, one in there, one in there. It doesn't matter which way round, it'll just read negative or positive. But one in either side, and then you should have a reading on your screen of 26 plus volts. You can do it like I've just done it. Put one pin, one tester in either pin, and test it on there, and you should have a reading. You should have a beep on the tower. So we have a break between this and this. So there's several bits of wiring and the controller that goes to that. So that's the next port of call I've got to go to, is strip this down, take this off and inspect, make sure there's no wires been cut or there's no damage or broken wires in there. And if it's not that, then we've got to start going through the main wiring that goes to the controller. I've seen it in the past where controllers have failed, and they would fail in the charge port and they wouldn't charge. So hopefully it's something in here that I've got to replace. Hopefully it's the charge port I've got to replace, but that would be the next step. If we're getting no continuity from there to there, then we've got to break from somewhere from there to there. So that's the next port of call. So the next thing you would need is just a crosshead or Phillips screwdriver. Let's remove that out of the way, turn it off. We don't need that for a minute. So you don't have to strip everything off of this to get to where your charge port is. Put the flap back up. So there's a screw hole, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6. So you must remove those two there to release this to get to this portion of the tiller, so you can service this. They kind of go up in an upward angle. I like using a manual screwdriver rather than a power, just to feel my way around, make sure there's a screw missing on that one, just so I can get, so I don't strip the heads of the screws out. They shouldn't be too tight, but tight enough to hold in there. And then the two hold the bottom console to that piece there. You may have to loosen off a few more just to wiggle it out, but usually they come off pretty easy. As you can see, it's starting to come away at the bottom. Alright, so as I suspected, as you can see, something got pulled, and that plug there, you can see it from there to there, that is your charge port. That's the reason why this isn't charging. Nobody's been in here, nobody's took it apart. I did replace the charge port at some point, so it may have not connected correctly, or something pulled the wire. So I'll inspect, because this main harness wire runs down here, and then underneath the scooter to the main plug-in. There's actually a plug-in just here. There's like a half cable, then the rest of the front to rear harness goes through there. So make sure nothing's pulled. It doesn't look like it because it's got cable ties on it there and there to hold it in place, but that's all that's happened. Is this is your charge port. That's your main harness plug to the fuse. So that's your fuse connector, your horn connector, and also that is your charge port. So there's the problem we've got, is that is come unplugged for some reason. But I'll do some inspecting, you never know, make sure nothing's been pulled under there. But let's just plug that back in, and then we can test the charge port again. So we'll put it back on there. Audible beep, it looks like some lines on it there. You can do it on just ohm reading, as long as that goes from open line or open circuit. And there's, I'll just show you. So this is ohm reading, it should say OL. Zoom in a bit, show you. So if you haven't got one that beeps at you, you can put the prongs together and you should have continuity. It will go from 0L to some kind of reading. That's just reading that there's continuity. So if you haven't got the beep, you can do it that way. I've got the beep, so let's just test this again. So put one prong in one of the holes of the charge port. Again, doesn't matter which one, either left or right. The top one is your safety wire. If the charger's plugged in, that's your circuit that breaks and stops the scooter from moving when it's plugged in and charged. But now it's on audible beep. Double check. Yep. Now we should get a beep at either one of these. There we go. We've got a beep now. We've got continuity. So we know we've got a positive line there. Let's change it over to negative. And on the other one. So we've got positive on one side, negative on the other. So we know we're good to go there. Best to test the other two, just make sure there's nothing crossed. It should only be on one of the two ports. So on the Victory 10, on this one, this is a positive feed, negative feed, because they're wired in series to give 24 volts. So the main 24 in, 24 in, that way. All right, so that was the easy fix. So if it's not that and it is plugged in, then again you would test the charge port to this plug. So let's say that was all plugged in correctly and that's not the problem. Then let's test this portion here. go and make sure that these wires aren't broken or is damage to the charge port plug. Again, leave it on audible continuity check and test all 3 holes. So one will beep for the red, so we're good there, then nothing, then nothing. Try the top one of the 3, so we know we've got that one. That's fine, that's fine. And then the last one, your negative. It is color coded, so you got main red, positive, negative, and then the circuit for the negative. So we know we're all good there. So that's fine. The next thing you would do is test the other plug to the tower. Again, we should have continuity on some line. If we don't have it, then we know we have a problem. So we have an audible beep there for the positive, and then the negative again, so we know that wiring is fine through to that circuit. Rules out any break in this cable to the tower. So that's your pointer battery contact to making the scooter go. So all it was just this. If you don't get continuity there, then you're looking at replacing this cable that goes from the controller, from the tower to controller to this point here, this point of contact here. So if you don't get any continuity there, you're looking at replacing this cable. Thing to do is you would have to strip the base of the scooter off to get to the brain, and I'll show you a brain out of the scooter and how you would test it. Alright, on my desk I've got a virtual setup of what that is, stripped down to its wiring, so you can understand what I would be testing next. So you've got your top console, which is all wired there from the front to rear harness via this plug here. That would go to your throttle, the red, white, yellow and blue wire. That goes to your throttle. Your other yellow, green and blue is your speed dial, which is just there. So that's how you differentiate between the two. One's white and the other one's green and white, I think it is. Green and white, but anyway, that goes to your throttle. That's your main harness plug in there. That there. This is for auxiliary things like turn signals. That's what those cutouts are there for, the sport edition. And there's also an extra plug on it there. But anyway, so then you would go down to your fuse line plug, which was the one that was unplugged. That is your charge port there, plug, which was unplugged in mine. Then your fuse lines, which is plugged in there, and the rest of the harness carries down to the connector, which is located in there, tied to the frame with a plug there, so you can separate this rear section of the front to rear harness, or the front section. When you order one of these, I do believe it's one complete cable. I'm not 100% sure, but you would find out when you order it. This is auxiliary as well. Then you've got the horn for the error codes. Sometimes these break, but they sometimes still flash on the little blue indicator there. So if it doesn't beep, it may flash, but that's what that line is for. You know, you've got another auxiliary port for lights. Then you've got the main charge port that doesn't actually go through the controller, as I suspect it did, but it doesn't. So you've got power going through the cable, feeding those wires there, and then you have a junction there to tell it if it's plugged into the charger or not. But that would be the next port of call, is testing this piece here. Then you've got your main cable going through to your brain. You've got your main brain plug there. Then you've got your service port there for programming these controllers. I haven't got one of those controller programmers, so pretty pointless. The blue wire is just circuit that tells it that the charger is plugged in. Then you have your brake wires, then your feed to your motor, which is indicated just there, 2 and 1, and then your battery input. So that goes from the tower, from those 2 ports there, feeding into the controller, then it feeds out to where it needs to go that way. So that is the breakdown, and then you've got your 2 brake wires, which these are cut. 2 thinner wires are your brake wires, and then your main feed to your motor wires there, which have been cut. And also you've got your circuit breaker there, so in case there's any problems, you've got a circuit breaker there. So you've got fuses there, no fuses in there, just your circuit breaker there. So the next port would be to test this plug here, just to make sure you've got continuity, that this isn't damaged, got wet or whatever. So you would have to strip off the floorboard. 4 wheels are a lot more difficult. You've got a lot more stripping down to do. 3 wheels are easier because this portion comes away from the scooter, so you lift that out just to test that. But yeah, just thought I'd show you that makeup there. So that's the wiring of Victory 10s, Victory 9s, maybe the 2s, the Victory 10 2.0, Victory 9 2.0, and the Sport, the Victory 10 Sport, which is discontinued, but it's similar makeup. It's just you've got more plugs for the rear lighting section that is on the back section portion, which you've probably seen me do that video, the 4-wheel. The lights are embedded in there, and there's just 4 wires that connect it there. So that was how you would troubleshoot power getting in and out from the batteries to the charge port if you have a charging problem. So for this one, I'm just going to put it all back together, put the batteries back in, and then test it, make sure it charges, make sure the charger's working. So, oh yeah. Let's plug that back in. I wonder why it came out. I haven't checked the front, make sure that it hasn't bubbled. There's something else I've got to do with this. This front tiller's loose as well, so it moves forward and backwards. It's not this portion, it's the actual knuckle there. If you don't tighten these up periodically, they will wobble loose, and then start affecting the bearings in the steering, and it will get all locked up. So it's best to service these if you start feeling the tiller moving backwards and forwards, a bit like if there's any forward and backwards movements like that, it could damage your steering bearings. There's a bearing top and bottom, a bit like on a bicycle where your forks and your handlebars swivel. It's the same principle, and all you would do is just remove this. It's just 2 screws that hold the rear cowl and the front light section. Again, they're just crosshead or Phillips screwdriver. It's a bit of a pain in the butt putting it back together, but it's worth doing if you're going on a lot of bumpy ground and things like that. So you can see that there, this top portion, very dusty, casino carpet dust. So that's how you would service the light as well. The light's plugged in to the harness just there. That was that little connector just here. That's where your light plugs in, just that little tube connector. They are 24-volt lights, so don't go putting 12-volt lights on there, they'll probably blow them. But this is what you would have to service, is this. It's like 2 locking rings, and then there's that this portion here spins as well that holds the bearings in, and there's one at the bottom. As long as you tighten these up, you may have to loosen the top one, tighten the bottom one, then tighten the middle one, and then tighten this top one, and then loosen off the middle one just to lock it in place, but not too tight that you can't steer. So that's what I'm going to do next, is give that a clean up, unplug the lights. I don't want any liquid getting in there. Tiller shroud back up and put the screws back in there. That's what I'll do next. I've done with that. So put the top piece in first. Put a screw in the top just to hold it in place so it doesn't move around. There's a couple of screws missing in this. That wouldn't have anything to do with the plug coming unplugged, but you can put Loctite on these if you don't want to wobble loose. These I have to service quite often just to make sure they're safe. I think there's a screw in there already. And I'll replace those other two screws when I'm done messing with this. So now I'm going to service this piece here. I'll just get some cleaning fluid and a brush. Don't go drowning it. Just enough to loosen up whatever debris is in there. Plus it'll help you see better what I'm doing. This little thing here, if you can see it, oh come on, that little plunger thing there, what that does is a little hole there, so when the tiller's straight it lines up with that hole, and when you drop the tiller it pushes down on that plunger which goes into that hole, and that stops the tiller from swinging left and right. That's all that is. So just make sure that's clear and clean. Just loosen off all the crud. I don't know if you can see that any better. I'll bring the camera around this side so you can. The light shining in the wrong place. Hopefully you can see a bit better. Oh! That wire's in the way, but there's like a little notch in there. You can see it just there. There's notch, there's two rings, one there, and then the main ring there. I always tighten up the bottom one first if it's loose enough. Just wipe that off. There's no moisture on there. See, so you'll get movement on that bottom portion. This shouldn't be moving, but it is. So you'll need a persuader, a punch or a set punch, and a pair of these channel locks as they call them. I'll place the channel locks on the bottom piece, hold this tiller. No, that's not coming off. So let's try. So basically I'm just hitting these notches. So I'll just basically put the set punch in there to loosen this top locking nut, and then I can undo the bottom one. Should be easy enough, and that should turn that out of the way. Just stop any pressure on that. I think the damage is already done on this one. I'll try again and tighten it a bit more to take some of that slop out of it. It shouldn't be this tight, to be honest. They're usually pretty loose. So I think there may be damage to the bearings already, but it's not grinding or anything, so I'll get one last chance. That's as tight as I can get that. Yeah, it's better. Alright, so loosely lock up the bottom one. Just stop that. Alright. And now tighten up the top one. And then get another different punch so I can get in there. Just to back off that middle one so it's not too tight on the bottom. And test your steering, make sure it's nice and loose. You should be good. Okay. Alright, put the light back in, plug that back in. It just plugs back into there. Everything on these things are plug and play kind of thing. Everything has a plug, pretty easy. Alright, grab your screw. Make sure your wire's tucked away. Screw the back to the front. It's just a protective cover and also doubles up as a light for the front. Let's get some screws, replace the ones that are missing. This one fell out on the floor somewhere, but I'll just put a new one in there. That's that one. Something's blocking that. batteries back in, test the charger, put it on charge. Alright, let's grab the batteries. It doesn't matter which battery goes in where, they're both the same. I'll just take the seat off. But the way I put these Victory batteries in, I put the battery as close as I can to the tower. These will take 40 amp hour, which are those things there. So you've got enough room and space to put 40 amp hours in there. Make sure these are covered up, but I always put the terminals away from the post, just for extra safety. Let's grab the other one. Here's that screw. That keeps any dust and grime getting on the posts. Keep them clean. And then plug that one in. Just be careful when you plug these in and when you put your strap over this securing strap, that you don't break these connections, and they do break. So just be gentle with them. Make sure the cables are pushed out of the way, like so. And now we can put the battery strap over. And this just secures the batteries into the screw so they don't jiggle about, because that's what unplugs these, the batteries bouncing around. Alright, so now the batteries are back in, we'll grab out our circuit tester again. Now this time we want to set it on voltage, DC volts, and we should have a voltage reading now at the charge port, and we do 23.48, so we're a little bit low because the batteries weren't charging due to that plug. So let's plug the charger in. This charger's still plugged in. And we should now have two red lights. There's one. There, two red lights. It's hard to see in there, but they're both red, and the bottom one will turn green when it's fully charged. So that's averted having to replace batteries. So don't always think it's charger and batteries. It could be something else. Yeah, not an easy job, but it was done. All working again, charging. So for this video, so basic diagnostic, just in case you come across this and you're getting no charging at the charge port, do some investigating, simple investigating, fuses, things like that, and test the charge port. That's the first thing Pride tell us to do, is check power at the charge port if you're getting power there. I'm sure they're going to change over to the charge 360 at some point on most of their scooters. They are doing already. So you'll probably see this style of charge port diminish, go away on Pride products, and it'll be just their charge 360, which you don't need one of these to test it. You just plug it into the charge port, and the actual plug on the charger lights up whether it's connected or not, whether it's got power. So that's how that works. But for this, that's your sort of diagnostic you would do if you've got one of these Victory 10s. Like I said, you can do the same thing with the Go-Go's, because they have the same similar setup but in a battery box form. So this is basically the same setup as that, as the Victory, just in a box. So you got positive, negative wired through, and you've got positive, negative on the other side. You've got your circuit breaker, your fuse, and your charge port. And you also have fuses on your battery lines. This one's on the negative side on this side, and on the positive. So Same thing, you would test, find the route to the red wire for this side, which happens to be on the circuit breaker, so you would test from there to there. Make sure you unplug the batteries first, and then do the same on this side. For this black side, you would trace the wire to there, because that loops basically through one side to the other, so that's passing positive through to the negative of the battery. It's like stacking one battery on top of the other, and that was how you would test those fuses. And you would also test your charge port the same way, by putting the tester in its two holes, one up, one down, and that tests these wiring. And also on the bottom of this, you can test the power going in and out of the main adapter plug at the bottom there. You got negative and positive, and that's your circuit that tells it that when the charger is plugged in. So yeah, same principle. And you've got your controller in there, your main front and rear harness there, up to your top console there, similar setup. It's just a smaller version, wiring slightly different. But yeah, for that is how you would do that. Any questions, drop them in the comments. I'll answer as best I can. And like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. Till next time, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up, appreciate it. Bye now.